One of the reasons that we think we found the holy grail of trading is that we had the right strategy in the right market environment. And that made us believe that, oh my gosh, we have the holy grail of trading. No, we just were employing a strategy that works the best in that market condition. And then once that market condition changes, that strategy either goes to not profitable or unprofitable. And I'm totally convinced after 35 years, a chart doesn't really matter. Now look, you have to use charts because it's better than guessing. it's better than a guess, but you use your charts to set up your system, but that's it.
All right, folks, here we are on Trading Up. We've got Robb Reinhold in the house from Maverick Trading. He's been trading for 25 plus years, and he runs Maverick Trading now. You're going to find out his story, and we're going to dive deep into mindset stuff, which is where he is an expert, and find out how you can switch your mindset to become more like a trader. So welcome to the show, Robb.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, we'll start off with how did you get into trading, and what was your sort of trading journey up to date?
Well, I started kind of, I'll call it messing around with trading at 21. I look back and say I became a professional at 22, but it really started off in sixth grade. We had a teacher that was awesome. He was one of those teachers that he threw out the textbook and said, we're not doing the textbook. We're going to learn about real life. It's just such a great experience. And he brought in one day, a guy in a suit and a tie showed up from a bank, and he explained to us how a bank works, how they make loans to people, and how checking accounts work, and how when you write a check out, you got to balance your checkbook. And then at the end of the time with us, he gave us these blank checkbooks, and our teacher said that we are all going to get these fake accounts that we were going to be able to manage. And when we did something good in class, we got money in a deposit, and you had to mark it down and balance your checkbook. And then when you did something bad, you had to write a check and pay it out. And at the end of the month, he would open up a little store where we could go in and buy, pencils, erasers, all sorts of little junk that a 12-year-old kid would think is cool. About a week after that, he brought in the business pages and had us all open up to the stock tables. And he taught us how to read the stock tables, like how to find the stock, how to find what it was trading at, how to find, what it changed for the day. And he said, you can use your fake money to buy and sell stocks. And he made these little tickets that were on the corner of his desk. You just had to grab one of the tickets, write the stock, write the current price, what you bought it at. And then when you wanted to sell it, you would do the same thing and sell it. And then you would get that money into your account.
Now, if you're loving the show and thinking, where can I go and trade? Why don't you check out my prop firm sponsor, Blue Guardian. Now, these guys have been around for ages. They've been sponsoring Trading Up for over a year. And some of the key features that make them so good is that they've got realistic profit targets. For their challenge phases, it's only 8 or 4%. They also have a scaling plan up to $2 million. And they do profit splits of 85%, which is really high for this industry. They also have quick and reliable payouts and a robust reserve that make sure those payouts are as seamless and smooth as possible. Now, if you're looking to join, go and check them out. But first, grab my coupon code TradingNut, all one word. You're going to save yourself 25% off at checkout. There's a link in the description. Go and click that now. Right, let's get back on with the show.
I'm sure I was the only kid that even thought this was cool, but that's all I wanted to do. I thought it was the coolest thing. And every Sunday we got the paper, and I would wake up and I'd go to the paper and I'd look through all the stocks that I was going to do for that week. Now, that was when I was 12. Obviously, when I became 13, 14, 15, other stuff became much cooler than that. But that always stuck with me. And then when I was 18, I was involved in a car wreck, and I got a $20,000 settlement. And whenever I talk about risk is giving $20,000 to an 18-year-old boy. That is definitely risky. Luckily, I had good parents. They sat me down, and I remembered the stock thing. And I went with my mom, and we went down to some discount brokerage and talked with the guy. And he said, you should do this, this, and this. And we said, okay, we'll do this and this. And over the next couple of years, that account grew from 20,000 up to 45,000. And that was just so cool. I was going to school, getting into business and thinking, that was way easier than all this other stuff. So I decided I'm going to be a trader. And I took that $45,000 and I turned it back into $20,000 fairly quickly here. So look, the first couple of years, they are always rough. You always have some big gains and big losses. But I always tell everyone who gets into trading, it takes you 3 to 7 years to really master trading. And it's not about the charts. Everyone starts with the charts. Everyone thinks it's all about technical analysis. Anyone can learn technical analysis. It takes a couple weeks to a couple months, tops. Where you need to learn is how, when the market is putting you under pressure, how, when you've already taken 3 losses in a row, how do you not blow that 4th trade? Or my big one was, once I've had 3 or 4 wins in a row, oh, I'm Superman. How do I not blow that 5th trade? Over position size, overly aggressive, all that stuff. It's the psychology, and that's really all I've studied. I tell people I haven't read a technical analysis book in well over 10 years. I read all psychology and brain chemistry stuff.
It's interesting. I mean, funny, going back to your whole story, is you're not the only one or the first person that's been on the show that said that their teacher way back in the day taught them how to, do virtual stocks and stuff. So I think there's been a few guys that have fallen into trading that way. So you found Maverick Trading as part of like your journey into the markets. I mean, how on earth did you stumble across them? And you're obviously been with them for a long, long time to the point now where you're like basically working. You're working for them, or the CEO, or
yeah, I'm the CEO head trader now.
The CEO head trader. So how did that how was that so like kind of pivotal for what you were doing like in your journey way back then when you first started?
It was so important because, as I told you, I was on my own trading, making all the mistakes. And I found out about a local place called Maverick Trading in my own town. I walked in the door. They welcomed me in. They sat me down behind a system. And you were with other traders. And other traders had been trading for 3 years, 5 years. Some had been on the floor of the exchanges. That environment was so key to getting over that hump. And everyone has to get over that hump in trading. It just takes a while, but it really helping surrounded by other traders that you could talk to and learn from.
And can you remember like anything in there that you were like just going, man, this is gold. I need to remember this. These sort of like stories or experiences that happened?
Yes. Here's a great one. I loved indicators. When I first got into trading and I learned about stochastics and MACD, I thought they were so awesome because look, how can you miss it? When 2 lines cross, how can you miss it? And you would go back and look back on them and you say, oh yeah, every time they cross, it works. And I was a big believer. And the guy sitting next to me, who had been trading for years, he's like, I don't use stochastics. And I'm like, are you insane? How can you not use stochastics? And then we would be trading and I'd watch him get into a position where stochastics were at like 70 or 80. And I'm like, this guy's insane. This guy's an idiot. So I would go buy the one that was having a deep pullback, in stochastics. He always made more money than me. And it took me a while to just beat it out of my skull that I'm watching this guy making more money. My trades are so-so. Sometimes I work, sometimes I don't. This guy's buying overbought stuff all the time, and he's making a killing. And I finally put away my love of stochastics and MACD and said, all right, let's learn some other things. So that was just so helpful to see that and to really learn how to trade with the trend, because a very deep, pullback in stochastics under 20, that's probably breaking trend more than anything. Now that I am more experienced. But at the time, man, I thought it was magic.
And so how do you reinvent yourself when you go, okay, well, I'm now going to move away from an indicator-based approach to a price-based approach?
Well, I mean, that is the world of trading, and you never have it. I mean, I always joke around and say that I've thought I found the holy grail of trading about 20 times. The holy grail, like, oh my gosh, if I follow this one indicator, it works, or if I use this one strategy, it works. And inevitably, they all fail at some point. They all don't work in certain market conditions. You just always have to be reinventing yourself. The market is fluid, it's dynamic, it's always changing. And that's what I love about trading so much, is that I've been doing this for over 25 years. I'm still excited Monday morning to wake up and go to work.
Yeah, it is very much like, I've been there as well. I've found that I've cracked it. This is it. This is the system that's going to work forever. And then for whatever reason, it starts to veer off the face of a cliff and never returns. So like you obviously dived into, well, actually, before we go there, you obviously worked with a lot of traders across the years at Maverick. I mean, can you sort of, if you had to distill it down into like what were the key attributes for the guys that are successful, that have come through and ended up sticking around versus the ones that don't? I mean, what were the key things that they did that you saw?
Okay, that is like the best question, because I really feel like I am in a very unique situation. I've traded for myself, I've overcome things, I've learned things, and I've also watched hundreds, if not, I don't think 1,000 traders. We're not that big, but I've watched hundreds and hundreds of traders. Some have become profitable, some have not. Some are wildly profitable, some are medium profitable. So the question that you just asked is so key. First one, number one, you have to have an edge. You must have an edge. You must have a system that develops an edge over a zero return. That's just the number one thing. And if you haven't built out a system yet and back tested it vigorously and looked into anything, you're still in the process of becoming a profitable trader. The number one thing is you absolutely must have an edge. And there's 1,000 different ways to get an edge, but there's only one way for you, or there's several for you. The other thing is risk management. And it's one of these terms. We use risk management and everyone throws it around and everyone knows it's important, but you don't get it. It's everything. It's the only thing that really matters. If you don't do this part correctly, I don't care how well you know a chart. I don't care about your system. It doesn't matter at all. If you blow the exits, you cannot be profitable as a trader.
So there's two things. So there's just literally two things. You reckon, the edge and the risk management? Anything else that made these guys stand out?
No, there you go. We boiled trading down into just two things, two easy, simple things, right?
So the challenge is, let's dive into the edge here, right? So the edge, like obviously you said there was some guys that were moderate traders, mediocre, others were just killing it. I mean, would you say that was down to better edge, better risk management, or better psychology, that these guys were doing way more returns than some guys were doing way more than others?
One other thing I want to throw into that mix there is that one of the things I always love to point out in the world of trading, and I do a lot of analogies with poker. So there's a play in poker where you go all in. And there's a saying in poker that says, all in works every single time, but once. It works every time, but once. As a trader, if you're going all in, I've seen people run their accounts up very quickly, but they're over position size. They're over leveraged, over position size. If you over position and over leverage yourself, it's a mathematical guarantee. It's a mathematical guarantee that you'll go to zero. One of the classes we have people go through at Maverick is we developed this. We call it a random return generator, and you put in your win-loss percentage, you put in your profit factor, and then you basically hit, okay, give me 100 random trades based on these numbers, and then you can control your position sizing. 1% risk, 2% risk. Those numbers, you still have a nice edge. Once you get up into 10, 15, 20%, I would say that 7 out of 10 times you hit that button, your account's at zero. Because it's a statistical guarantee. I mean, here's just some numbers that we always teach. If you are a 50-50 win-loss trader, there is a 31% chance you will have 7 losses in a row in the next 50 trades. That's a guarantee. So I do 100 trades, now you're probably up in the 60, 65% area. If you position size 10% risk and you hit that 7 losers in a row, that's going to happen. And that drawdown is going to be so big that even if you had 20 winners after that, you weren't back to where you were. it's a mathematical guarantee. So again, we talk about risk management, and risk management has so many things boiled up into it. Position sizing is probably the number one thing in risk management. It's the number one thing.
Mm.
If you make your positions too large, you mathematically are guaranteed to lose. Guaranteed.
And so, like, from going back to the edge thing, so I mean, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, or they think they've got an edge and they don't really have one. I mean, like, in your experience, and maybe what you guys teach at Maverick, like, what kind of, I suppose, data do you need to have behind you, or do you think a trader needs to have before they can go, well, I've got a solid edge here that I can now, move into execution mode?
Okay, great question. Anyone can backtest and find a strategy that has an edge, especially when you do it over a certain amount of time. One of the reasons, and you brought this up, I brought this up, one of the reasons that we think we found the holy grail of trading is that we had the right strategy in the right market environment. And that made us believe that, oh my gosh, we have the holy grail of trading. No, we just were employing a strategy that works the best in that market condition. And then once that market condition changes, that strategy either goes to not profitable or unprofitable. That right there is really how to, that is the struggle, is that developing a system that has an edge, I always say it's an engineering problem. It can be overcome, it can be figured out. It's just a matter of backtesting endlessly until you find something. And one of our senior traders has a great saying that if you backtest a strategy, the worst thing that could happen is that it ends up with zero or a small gain, small loss. He said, because then now you don't know what you got.
Mm.
He said, but if you have a serious loss, you have a winning strategy if you just do the opposite. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true. You have a winning strategy if you just do the opposite. I'll always love to say that's an engineering problem. And that is just doing work, back testing, future testing, demo testing. That's just really all that it is to get an edge in the market. But to really be a great trader, you have to understand that whatever strategy you're doing doesn't work in some market environments. And the question is, can you either sit those out? Can you reduce your position size? We use a lot of dynamic position sizing models at Maverick, where if you don't have the right conditions, you might be at a third position size of your usual size. If you're a trend trader and the market's not trending at the moment, any trades you're taking are much smaller than they used to be, or they should be. And then as it starts to trend and you start to get, data in your favor that shows, okay, now I'm trading in an environment that's conducive, then you start ramping up the position sizes. That's a great way to, again, you'll be trading all the time, but when the market's not in your favor, those losses should be much smaller. When it's in your favor, you're going to have larger position size. That's a great way to get through the swings of the market. Because if you're just banging away the same thing all the time, when those markets go against you, against your system, those are going to be drawdowns. That's just what happens.
And I think, like, for me, that has been probably the biggest struggle, is trying to find out, like, when the market condition has changed and determine that to a good degree, so that that, like, okay, well, I can now switch. This strategy is no longer going to work. I can't, expect it to go back to the mean. It's probably going to trend for a bit. That is probably the hardest thing I've found to crack in trading, especially around getting an edge. Now, what about, like, you obviously didn't mention psychology in there of the three things. So the guys that you see doing really well have risk management under control. They've got an edge that works, but they must have some mindset kind of things going on here, of something they've broken the back of to make the execution phase of this edge as flawless as possible.
Yes. So everything that we've talked about so far, you are using your prefrontal cortex. So they've done studies on people, and one of the studies I love is that they had people play blackjack, and they were hooked up to MRI machines while they're playing blackjack. And when there's no money on the line, all of the of the activity in the brain is in the prefrontal cortex, where we make rational decisions, where we value win-loss, we take a look at situations. All of that is in our prefrontal cortex. Then they gave them money to bet. And all of a sudden, the brain activity in the prefrontal cortex went away. And the brain activity in the insula, the fight or flight response, that started to be activated. Yeah. And I wrote an essay to our traders years ago that said, you're using the wrong part of your brain. So when money's on the line, we think we're using our prefrontal cortex. We're not. We have adrenaline shooting up into our body. Our brain chemicals are swirling around. You literally cannot make a rational, logical decision because you're not using that part of the brain. I really try to drive that home to people to when we really talk about trading psychology. Because as a new trader, and again, as a young trader, I thought I was in control. And I kept making the same mistakes. And I would just say, Rob, are you an idiot? You are the dumbest person in the world. You've already made this mistake 2 times. Are you that dumb? And I would just punish myself over and over and over again. And when I finally learned about this, when I finally learned that, you literally will fail at this 100 times out of 100. When I understood that I am guaranteed to fail at this 100 times out of 100, I started to say, how am I going to trade in spite of this? If I get in this situation psychologically, I'm going to fail 100 times out of 100 times. How do I trade in spite of that? And that's where you get into your trading system, where, how do you avoid those situations where you're not good? It's a very different way to look at trading. I've got tons of stories about that.
It is, but it is so true though. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head there, because I like, even you don't even realize that you're thinking like that, right? So you've highlighted that fact, which is great, because I think everyone out there who can't work out why things are going wrong, they can go, okay, well, that's why it's going wrong, because money's on the table. I'm now screwing myself over. But yeah, trying to work out a way around that and knowing that that's the problem is probably the biggest thing. I mean, I've just had to do that recently, because I was like, why can't I hold these trades for, like, I'm seeing the trade, get in and I'll get out at break even, get in, get out at break even, or move my stop too early, all that sort of stuff creeps in. And the only way I found to do it is I've put things in place so that I walk away. I turn everything off. Well, I don't turn everything off. I turn everything off apart from what I need to know, which is, has the trade won or has the trade lost? Everything else is automated. And then I get in. If I know it's lost, then great. I can now look for another trade. There might be another setup. So that is a key thing. I mean, what have other people in Maverick or traders that you have there, what have they done to try and overcome some of these psychological barriers?
Well, let me tell you my personal story. I'm a huge extrovert. I love energy. I love activity. I love crowds. Like I love that sort of intensity. And so for me, clicking a button and getting into a trade is awesome. I get that rush of adrenaline. I get those endorphins. I get all that stuff that I just crave. And so anyone who is an extrovert, and I will actually want to talk about our psychology test. We have a trader personality test. We had this internally at Maverick for over a decade, and we just decided to release this to the public just about a year ago. It's traderpsychologytests.com. Hopefully you'll put a link down there. People can go take a trader personality test for free. It's based on the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, to where it tells you this is who you are, and these are going to be your strengths of trading. These are going to be your weaknesses. I can already tell anybody who is an extrovert is already an overtrader. It's a guarantee. You can't not be an extrovert and not be an overtrader. You can't be a strong introvert and be an undertrader. Like they go hand in hand together. And so me as an extrovert, I remember I could not, I would make trades and I would be up my target for the week by Tuesday. And then by Friday, I had given it all back and I couldn't stop doing it. I literally couldn't stop clicking the button. So I have a security card that I need to get into my account. And I gave this to my wife after I had made my target. I said, whatever I say, do not give me this back until next Monday. Do you understand that? Like, she's like, yeah, I get it. Well, sure enough, like a day or two later, I'm like, hey, that card? You just real like chill, like, hey, that card I gave you? Yeah, I'm going to need that back. She's like, oh, okay. And she gives it back to me. And of course I lose the money. I'm like, don't do that to me. Like, I'm going to be very convincing to you. No matter what I say or do not give that back to me. And the next time she stood firm. And the next time she stood firm. And then I knew that she wasn't going to give it back to me. Mm. And then I started to like, okay, well, what else can I go do? I started going to the gym a lot more. I started doing all these other things to fill my day to get my stimulus that I was getting from trading. A couple of months later, I got the card back and I never needed to give it to her again because I had worked out the process. I had figured it out. These are the things that aren't in the textbooks. These are the things that you just don't get. How do you trade in spite of yourself? Mm. And I want to talk about, I know you've had VP from No Nonsense Forex on your podcast. Me and VP have done a trading psychology podcast on YouTube where we go into pretty much every single aspect of the part of psychology and trading.
It's funny because you sort of think, okay, well, how much could there be to it? How can you do a whole podcast on trading? I mean, like, if you had to sort of pull out maybe the best episode that you've done so far. Sorry, did I say a podcast on trading? I mean, trading psychology. I do a podcast on trading. If you had to pull out like the best episode so far, I mean, what would that sort of entail? And if somebody was going to go and listen to it and be the most useful for them, is there anything in there that you've gone like that? We actually hit on some massive gold here that people, if they just did this one thing, they'd be, way, way ahead of where they are now.
I'm going to start with episode 1. And episode 1 is where I really get into kind of what I just talked to you about with the blackjack example, how we feel like we are in control. We feel like we're making rational decisions. But when you really get into the physiology of what's going on in your body, you literally don't. And I am a subscriber to what's called the illusion of free will theory. The illusion of free will, that we believe that we're making these choices. But these choices are from your personality, your programming, everything you're doing, it's already predetermined. Mm. And they've done studies to show that when people make a decision, they've got them hooked up to MRI machines, and it takes about 3 or 4 seconds for the prefrontal cortex to spool up enough energy to make a decision. The decision's already been made well before that, well before it. So they're like, well, how are these decisions being made? And what the body has done is it's already predetermined your reactions. Like the first time you touched a hot stove, you didn't know. Next time you touch a hot stove, now your brain always is thinking about that hot stove and, to be careful around those stoves. You don't have to think about that anymore because the brain has programmed that to where you no longer have to think about it. Hmm. When you go into the world of trading, there are things that your brain has already predetermined that you're going to do. And a very easy one is, and this is how we're built as humans, you're not going to want to sell a gain. You're not going to want to sell a loser, and you're going to want to sell a winner. That's just how everyone is programmed. We're pre-programmed that way. So when you go into trading and you are thinking about, should I get out or should I not? You've already determined. You're going to sell the winners way too early and you're going to hold the losers way too long. You've already made that decision. So when you make the decision, you're surprised, you're upset at yourself, you beat yourself up over it. No, you were born to do that. You have to go in and really become self-aware that you're not in control. And then you have to do things to try to rewire your brain. So just like you did, you said, I am incapable of holding these long enough. I keep doing it. How do I get rid of that? And you implemented certain things to where you're no longer sitting there watching the screen. Screen watching is the worst because all you do is you think and you feel, and all the chemicals go into your brain and you're screwed. You're totally screwed. So you've removed yourself from that. And that's That's not in any books. That's not in anything. It's just something you realized that's what you have to do. I guarantee you that after 3 to 4 months of doing this, you'll be able to sit in front of a screen and not feel anything anymore. That's how you fix it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I'm like even just I'm thinking about just the other day. Might have been last week. No, it was Monday. It was 2 days ago, even, right? And I placed this trade. It was during the daytime. I placed a trade, and I had all the alerts set up and stuff. And I was like, right, I'm not going to go back and look at it. And it was going on. It went on for like 2 hours. Like these trades usually can be done within 25, 30 minutes, an hour. It was 2 hours, nothing. 4 hours, nothing. No alerts, which meant I hadn't hit the stop loss, which meant I hadn't hit the take profit, and nothing else had changed. And I think I even had an alert in there as well, and the alert level hadn't got hit.
Yeah, you're like, wait, is my alert even in?
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's
what's
it.
going on?
Look, I had this feeling in the body. It kept getting worse and worse and worse, where I was just like on edge, constantly checking my phone, and I ended up. It was getting close to bedtime, and I was like, so this has gone on from like 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 p.m. at night, and I was like, I'm going to need to check it because I just like. I wanted to. I had thought, okay, I'm going to bed. It's a good reason to check it. So I did check it, and what happened? Well, I did exit partial, but I wasn't a good profit. And then I left. I moved the stop to break even, and I left it, running. So I thought, okay, well, look, I wasn't up for the week at that point. I was up slightly, but I wasn't up massively. I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna be sort of logical here, take some profits. And then I woke up in the morning and it had hit my take profit. So had I just completely taken myself away, followed my system, followed my edge, I would have had a really good profit. So I'm still not quite there, but I'm way better than what I used to be by doing these little sort of psychological things to keep me out of it. But the emotional feeling that I had in the body was the thing that really, was kind of surprising, and it kept getting worse. And I was like, I even noticed it. I was even able to go, I noticed that. Whereas before, I'll be straight in there, stop loss to break even. I would get stopped out at break even too early. So sorry, there's a bit of a rant from me, but yeah.
But I just want to point out what you just said was awesome. That you now realize those feelings you're getting. If you watch the Trader Psychology podcast I do with VP on his No Nonsense Forex channel, the first key is being self-aware. You cannot change behavior if you think it's someone else's fault. Like, you just can't. Like, if you think, oh, the market was just too volatile, or that damn Powell, he said this, or the RBA did this. No, it's never the market's fault. It's always your fault. And when you take that in, and then you become self-aware that, okay, I created the issue, I created the problem. If you don't recognize that you were the problem, you have zero chance to progress as a trader. When you recognize, oh, I'm feeling these feelings because of this, that is so healthy, because now you're reinforcing why you did what you did. And then you get in and you say, oh, I should have done that better. And then you think about it, you process it. So the next time you're in that situation, instead of having the feelings, you say, no, this happened last time. I'm not going to do it this time. And you're going to stick with the system, and you're going to get the big payoff that you deserved. And that's going to reinforce you for the next time. That's how behavior change works.
And it's so counterintuitive as well, because it's like, I've actually got, so the whole, point of trading, or the reason people get into trading is to get time freedom, and, well, I suppose to get financial freedom and, majority of time freedom from a day job and that sort of thing. So I'm like, now I've given myself the time freedom, yet why am I like connecting myself back to the doing something related to trading when I can actually do nothing and go and, go to the gym or go play golf or whatever it is, enjoy myself, and then I will still get this, I'll get a better result than if I actually sit there and watch every tick on that chart. So it is such a mindset based thing. No wonder you got a podcast on it.
Well, if you again, I can tell you're an extrovert just by the way you're doing, and plus introverts typically don't have podcasts. Surprisingly, VP is a little bit of an introvert, so that one surprises me. But again, the fact that you're an extrovert, there's already things that you're pretty much guaranteed to do. Just to fully understand who you are and the mistakes you're going to make. And then you build a system to how can I trade in spite of myself? These are the things I don't do well. What guardrails can I put in place to save me from myself? Do you understand that that is nothing about a chart? And I'm totally convinced after 35 years, a chart doesn't really matter. Now look, you have to use charts because it's better than guessing. It's better than a guess, but you use your charts to set up your system. But that's it. It's really what you do after that.
I mean, you say charts are better than guessing. I mean, have you got any sort of like, I suppose, like data around that, or anything you've done to sort of go, hey, look, here's a guess. This is what's happened.
Yes, and thank you for asking. I started a project in August of 2023. It's been something I've been wanting to do for years. When I was a younger trader, I heard this story and I have scoured the internet for it and I can't find the data because I wanted the data. But I heard a story about two traders that would take the Wall Street Journal quote pages and they'd tape up the quote pages on the wall, and then they'd stand back and throw a dart. And whatever stock the dart hit, they would then flip a coin, heads they go long, tails they go short. And they would just employ their position management strategy, which is selling losers, holding winners. And supposedly they chose 10 new stocks every month. And for 18 months they did this. And at the end of 18 months, they had a nice profit. And they had pretty much only winning months, I think a couple of losers. I've not been able to find that story out there on the internet. A couple people have said, hey, this one. And I said, yes, that's talking about it, but I wanted the data. I just don't think they kept the data back then, because why would you? So I started a project on YouTube called the Flat Earth Trading Society. And I thought, okay, I want to do something controversial because this is very controversial in trading. And pretty much on the first of every video, I said the biggest, conspiracy, the biggest conspiracy theory in trading is that all the books, all the websites, everything's about the entry and very little is about the exit. So in this experiment, we are choosing random stocks, currencies, metals, whatever it is. We'll trade it all. We're choosing them in random methods. We are flipping over Scrabble tires. We are throwing darts. I used a Ouija board the other day. It was... that trade's still going, so I can't say how well the trading spirits are doing. But again, I'm always using just fun, crazy stuff, ways to randomly pick positions. And then we use a position management strategy where we sell losers and hold winners. And it's an ATR-based trailing stop strategy. I highly recommend you go on to YouTube and at least watch a couple, because we're now on trade number 67, I think. And we've got about a 5% profit at the moment.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Again, this is with no entry criteria. It's only exits. It's only selling losers, holding winners as long as you possibly can, and doing it with random methods. Seeing stuff like that, the point of that experiment is to show people how much consistency matters in your position management, because we all want to do something different. We all, again, after you take 3 losers in a row, it's like, how do you follow your rules on this third one or this fourth one? It looks good, but it could go back to a loser, and you just can't handle that emotion. Just be robotic. Be robotic. So I do have to warn you, though, I didn't think about it when I made the name up, because every video has a big warning that says the Earth is not flat. This is a conspiracy theory. Right. And I'm sure I've been like totally thrown down the algorithm
from the thing. Yeah, exactly.
They're not wanting to show these, so you got to go search it out.
Yeah. Hey folks, what a view behind me. I'm at Black Bull Markets headquarters here in Auckland, New Zealand. Speaking of views, you can get TradingView paid plans for free at Black Bull Markets, saving you up to $600 a year. That's right, get either the Essential, Plus or Premium plans absolutely free, and all you need to do is trade from one lot a month at Black Bull Markets. And you can also get a 100% deposit bonus for your first deposit up to $1,000. All you need to do is click the Trading Nut link in the description below. Hey, look, Rob, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic having you on. Before we wrap up, what's the best way for traders to get hold of you?
Me personally?
Or find out more?
Perfect. Yeah, go to maverickTrading.com. And again, we've got a support line there. If you want to drop us a message, it'll get to some of us. Or maverickcurrencies.com. They are completely separate companies, completely separate divisions, completely different trading accounts. So go to Maverick Trading if you're interested in stock and options, Maverick Currencies, Forex, crypto, and futures.
Brilliant. Well, look, a big thank you to Rob for sharing with us today. Everything we discussed here will be in the show notes under the video or in the podcast description. To find him on Trading Nut, go to the search box on tradingnut.com and search for Rob. It's 2 B's as well. Until next time, I wish all my listeners trading happiness and success.